Hello and welcome to the skating lesson. I'm Dave Lees.
And I'm Jonathan Byer. Hi, Dave.
Hi,
Feeling
Sean.
European this weekend. Yeah.
I know. I'm wearing a little French connection. Yes.
That's nice. That's nice. Okay.
Well, this is this and that. We are going to be discussing everything of the 2023 European Figure Skating Championships. So if you are new here, please subscribe below. Remember to smash that like button. I am losing my words already. This is...
You're so excited. You're so excited. You know, when I think back to Europeans, like when I first started really getting into skating, it was just the competition of Surya Bonali. That's all. That was my introduction to Europeans. That was the thing Surya would always win.
Although the 94 Europeans are one of my favorite broadcasts to rewatch. Yes. I think it was Marianne Grabovoy, and they had all of the fluff pieces. It's where Katarina Witt had to like stake her claim to make the team for the Olympics, and you see Marina Kielman bawling, and it was Torvald Lundin's comeback, and Gordy Van Grinkhoff and Victor Petrenko and Surya beating Oksana.
Huge event, yeah.
Great event, the best.
Yes, especially, I enjoyed that dance event because the results worked out to my taste. Yeah.
Yes, it was. Ooh, what are we drinking? Yes.
Just an iced coffee. Yeah. Just to stay jazzed about all things skating.
I'm just having coffee now. You know, it's like that post-nationals week. Like I remember we were there in person feeling like, I don't know if I can get through the last day. Right?
No.
But, you know, obviously working and doing this, and I had a film shoot on Friday for work that was at night afterwards, and I'm skating. So, oh my God, it's been an intense week, especially starting with the juniors, which we're going to discuss tomorrow, because I have like talked to Jonathan for years about these hack and sack people, and his eyes have sort of glazed. And now
you don't know who they are. So I'm just receiving the story. Yeah.
But you were going to get to see, they were all fully themselves. And really an interesting breed, even compared to other coaches, they are a unique bunch, right?
Okay.
Yes.
And you know, a lot of people were reaching out. Do you want to talk about who we're going to have, or you want to keep it a secret?
We could keep it a secret. Why not? Yeah.
A surprise visitor, maybe.
Yeah.
But a lot of people, of course, were inquiring, were we at nationals? Were we going to go to nationals? All these things. Quite frankly, I would have booked a ticket to Finland.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting competition in Espoo.
Well, I'll be really honest. I didn't think that the field for US nationals warranted us flying across the country, getting a hotel and the tickets, which were expensive. I mean, they were expensive last year, but it's Olympic trials and you kind of expect that. But this year, the price point for the field was like, I'll stay at home and have a great time.
For the flight, for the time away from work, and the tickets, and the hotel. I mean, it becomes an astronomical commitment. And the way they spread out US nationals as opposed to these other events is endless. You know, Canada, you can go in there for 48 hours and catch it all. But this, it's so drawn out. It's a difficult commitment to make. Yeah.
And I was running TSL lives from there, like it's just a lot. It was not for this year. For another.
But I would have gone to Finland.
Finland was great. And the crowd, and this is the thing about having events in the same place again and again. This crowd, you know, they have Finlandia every season now that they have the Grand Prix, which, and a couple of times now, and it looks like it'll be there again next year. Most likely, they haven't made the formal announcement, but after seeing the crowd at Europeans, I think Finland will get a Grand Prix event again, and deservedly so, because they can have a great crowd, and I think that's really important. It was
filling the seats. They were enthusiastic, and they were supportive, and they were with them, and it made the whole event that much more exciting.
Yeah, and it's not just probably the Finnish crowd, although a large portion. I mean, sure, people from Europe are flying there, and you know, it's COVID restrictions, of course, everything is playing in, but it's not the easiest time in the world right now, and this is happening, and I think it's really important because I enjoyed watching the skating with the crowd so much more. And I know I was tweeting a lot yesterday. I don't regret anything that I said. Like, I agree wholeheartedly with every single thing that I said. And some people are like, you hate skating, you should stop watching. Like, no, I actually love skating. And I think that the institutions need to make a lot of changes to make
keep
this
that love. Yeah.
And one of the things we were just talking about before we signed on was, you can now watch archives for 47 hours on Peacock, which is better than nothing. But
it is better than nothing, especially for Europeans. Again, the idea that I was going to have to wake up at such goofy hours to only watch it live was concerning. And I mean, obviously, I would love for the replay to last a little longer than that. I don't understand how these are chosen or what it's conflicting with, as we are paying for the service to watch it. So I wish the replays were longer, but the fact that they had them at all felt like a luxury.
Well, when I look at the seats being empty at nationals, and I look at, I think there's a couple factors. One, the fact that it has to be behind a paywall. A lot of people don't want to pay for Peacock, right? So they wait for the broadcast, but they really have lives. I mean, I don't live the kind of lifestyle where I sit at home at a specified time to watch anything.
Right. You got to watch it when you are able. Yeah.
I don't remember the last time I sat down, unless it's a sporting event. And I don't remember the last time I really, and certainly not a tape delay broadcast, right? I just don't do it. Running around doing things. Yeah. And I think our lives have changed so much that it's just not usual.
And it is too bad, because we've talked about this also when we go back and would judge old events or something like that. And I've been on this kick with like those Hyacinth B channels and stuff. This whole past week, I would turn on like 2001 Worlds and just watch it like it was a movie, and to see the event unfold, to watch each skater in the order in which they're skating, where you get the in-betweens and you get the warm-ups. It's so different than knowing the results and then going in and just sort of clicking each individual performance out of context. It sort of takes away some of that magic. So
Peacock is also hard to navigate. You have to go to the sports tab. You have to scroll. You have to skip. It's not the easiest.
And they include future events. Like I was having to cipher through all of the 4 continents things, and one was the world, and one had the commentary, and then it would disappear, and then I'd have to go to a different thing. It's a very clumsy situation.
Yeah, it's not easy. And it's funny because it's supposed to be intuitive, probably in high end, and they probably have some, expensive firm that they hired to do a user.
Complicate it for no reason. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. 100%.
It probably seemed great when there's very few programs on there, and then you start adding it. You're like, whoa. Yeah. Although I do hear people mention Peacock as more of a real thing now. It's not going away. But I do have to think about before. Just in general, the fact that the broadcast, there's been one person that's been putting up like feeds from nationals, which is great. They haven't been pulled down just yet. But in general, you put anything, NBC will take it down, right? But this is the weird thing, is because it's within their contract with US Figure Skating. But what's weird is that with USA Gymnastics, they've always put every routine from nationals up. And it's like the feed without the commentary, but they would also put the broadcast up on USA Gymnastics' channel. That actually helped grow the sport immensely. To have that available for, it started as like for a Simone Biles viral moment and fans watching other people, but over time, it has really grown with these athletes. And now ESPN has tons of coverage of, and a lot of it is on the ESPN streaming channels and whatnot, but you can watch college gymnastics all the time, every Friday night, typically, and from the Southeastern Conference, but those are a lot of the same athletes that were elites, right? But it's kept them alive. And the other thing that does, and college gymnastics is super popular, and it's out of a 10, which elite obviously isn't.
Right.
And people love the simplicity of watching that.
Right.
They love debate, whether they say it or not. They always debate, oh, the scoring is such bullshit. But then at the same time, they love seeing the 10s and debating, is this a real 10? Is this not a real 10? Oh my God, is that a real 6?
But
not a real 6?
It's also the joy in, again, going back, and I watch all these like early 2000s World Championships again. You are a part of that judging. It is easy for you to sort of assess in your own criteria, would I go 5'7" or 5'8", and then how would that result? And also even the flashing of both scores at once, we don't get like the technical score and then the PCS score. It just comes up as a random number. And sometimes there's just so many numbers, I'm not even computing it to say, oh, they got a 120 here, but they got a 118 before. I kind of thought they were going to go 122. It gets so jumbled for me. I liked sort of that delayed moment when then they revealed the PCS or artistic score as like an additional moment.
And I don't know about you, but like when we cover it, every year the rules change. So I almost feel like we start clean. There are some people that remember what Valieva got last year versus this year, but when the rules change and the elements change and how they're judging things, and it never has any relevancy to me, right? Although, you know, when we watch, obviously in ice dance, certainly tracking those scores from event to event. And I know that the skaters certainly are tracking, but
even there was a moment here at Euros, I think, where Romain turned and was like, what did you get? And blah, blah, blah. And I think it was Lila and Lewis. And they were like, oh, it was an 85 there. And then they got less than an 85 or whatever it was here. So it's fascinating. Even the people in it, it's just like a blurry jumble of numbers.
Yeah.
And I was reading someone's like Wikipedia bio as I was like refreshing myself with them when I was on this nostalgic trip earlier this week. And they were like, they were the first people to receive perfect tens in a PCS mark. And I was like, but that would go by without ever knowing it, because again, we don't see those marks. We just see a total number. So that's tough.
I mean, the debate is great. In an algorithm world, how many people comment if people are like, that's not a real 6, that's a 5.8, right?
No.
That's actually fabulous for the ISU. I mean, and obviously the world feed is available for other countries, but that boosts the video up in the algorithm. Right? So that would be, it's not great when the video goes to the top and everything is about these calls that are rigged, and are they judged consistently? I mean, that's terrible for the sport. When that is boosting up, right? That's not great.
Because even when I see those numbers, it is pointless to me until I go to something like skating scores and I can watch the enhanced protocols. When I see the enhanced protocols as a visual, then I understand more what has been assessed. But when it's just the number and all the factors have gone in, even when everyone plays with that, how they do the upper box, right? Like Russia had their own version, Japan does their own version, Nationals was throwing in new stuff, which I found very confusing in the dance thing, because it was saying the maximum amount of points they could get for an element, and then what they got, as opposed to Euros was more the ISU standard, where we're seeing how many specific points are coming in addition for the GOE or being subtracted for it. But even then, we don't see that it's a +1 through 5. We already see it with that mathematical equation. It's factored, don't we? Like next to it, it doesn't say, oh, they got an average of +4 for that element.
No, we see the factor. So it doesn't make sense for people.
Right. Right.
It's way too complicated, right? Like a +1 needs to be a +1, unless we're going to go back to the 6-0, which I don't think will happen, but I think it would be great for the average viewer, because this is just lunacy.
Because even a 1 through 5 or a minus, you know, you can easily understand that and then sort of like wander along. Oh yeah, they should have gotten a +4 for that. Good for that. I would have given it a +5. To me, that was only a +2. That sort of thing engages, again, more than the factored number, I think.
Yeah. It's just, I think for the growth of the sport, I think when you compete, it's great as a tool to have that feedback. But if it's not applied correctly, it's also horrible. But I think to train and to improve, it's fantastic to have like those numbers. But I think for a viewer, it's terrible.
Yeah. Well, and Sandra,
unless you're in the sport and know it, right? But even then, it's a lot. So
I mean, Sandra was always making a good point where she, at first, because when it was newer and they were using that box in the corner, it was helpful for, I think, a lot of us to really hone our IJS understanding. But she was like, gosh, it takes you so out of the program. If the minute you watch a jump, you're now looking in this corner for the next 10 seconds and totally separated from the magic that may or may not be happening on the ice.
So, I mean, and that's true. Skating has changed from these cohesive programs that you would have a visual experience and maybe a cheated jump that you would overlook, right? To this thing where the errors and everything is like so, but I mean, obviously this is our attention spans have also changed with TikTok and things like this, but it does it's interesting when you watch Jason Brown skate and he echoes like a Paul Wiley kind of feeling, right? You're like, we don't have that from other people.
Right.
Right. But he's still doing interesting transitions and things. And people will be like, yeah, well, it's like the New York City Ballet. Well, that's always been the debate of the sport. Welcome to figure skating, right? Exactly. This is always, that's the fun of the sport.
Right.
And is that Megan Duhamel, and we may see things differently and both agree that we love skating and appreciate similar things, right?
And we'll talk about it obviously more in the nationals event, but when Jason can clobber everyone in PCS, but only come out 5 points ahead, but Ilya can clobber everyone technically, but come out 20 points ahead. It's that imbalance that did not happen in 6-0.
And is Jason only 3 points better than Ilya Malinin in components? In a real world. I'm not talking about just like the points and that we have to, Ilya's our champion and he's the whole, right? Like, because you judge that person higher. That's true. However, it's not accurate in the scale. Like the scoring system is not designed currently to reflect the differences in skating. And until it does, you're not going to see people really put the emphasis in the program, because you know what? People love both. Okay. You might love the quads, but someone else might love the overall artistry. And that's how you're going to see differences. And that's how not everyone is going to do the same elements in the same program. Gubanova, to me, has always been a generically lovely skater. Nothing wrong with her. Very pleasant, like a Russian Mai Mihara kind of situation. But I don't think anything is particularly interesting about her.
Right.
And I think she's had nice moments, or there's been nice background music playing, but I've never found her particularly engaging. I know people like the Romeo and Juliet program, but I don't find her to be striking or memorable in a way. I do find certain personalities memorable, but programs less so.
But, and also with her, I mean, it's what is her versus what is the sport asking of her, because what she did was get the job done. And in order to get the job done, she had to stop the program, stop the emotion, focus, set up, do the thing.
And that's what it looks like.
And she was able to do the thing as a result of it. But then I'm like, but isn't, I don't know, don't we just do those jumping elements to enhance the whole emotion of the program? So in order to have to drop it all in order to achieve it, which I understand these are very difficult elements, and she does those triple triples very well. Like all these things are so wonderful. But for me, for it to come to a screeching halt, here's a big open area where we're doing nothing except focusing on the combo that's coming up in a few seconds. It takes me in and out of the experience, and it's just a little tough.
To me, she's somewhere between 5th and 8th at Russian Nationals and has been there for the last number of years. I know people always felt she should have been higher, but I haven't found that has anything that makes me remember her program.
Yeah, and sometimes, and they'll talk about this in like social media when you're trying to get traction or something, is how do you break through the noise? And right now, I see a lot of the same. And I think that's what a lot of fans are not always thrilled with the current state of things, is yes, you have some people that really do stick out, but for the most part, it's this middle pack that's doing all the same elements to all the same kind of choreography, all the same kind of music. So how do you separate yourself and be noticed? And to me, she was consistent today.
The other thing that the ISU has to face in the non-ice dance disciplines is that the requirements dictate this actual type of music, because you no longer choreograph necessarily to the music. Because you have to choreograph the prescribed steps and transitions.
Right.
When I put together my footwork sequence this year, we knew the theme, we knew the type of music, but we choreographed the steps and then did it to the music at the point, in which it prescribed, but we didn't go note by note, measure by measure. That did not happen, right?
Yeah.
Did it and then kind of added the arms and the feeling to it. which is very different. I have a video when Sandra Bezic finishes editing it of her choreographing for Lu Chen, the Rachmaninoff program, and they're going note by note. That isn't done anymore.
Yeah,
and
it
it looks
bad,
like it.
Because as we've talked about, the music is the huge element. Otherwise, why have it, right? So the music, if you're listening to the music, it will dictate to you what it wants in that moment. When there is a big boom at one point in the middle of the footwork sequence and it is ignored, it, to me, and my musical sense, it just puts such a divide between me and the performance, because you're not even listening to the music. To me, the choreography should be there to enhance what the music is doing, and instead of just ignoring it and going through. And we've talked about that. This is a dilemma with what's being asked. The fact that Ashley Wagner was like, oh, I'm going to pick up this footwork sequence and insert it into totally different music just because I know these steps are correct. What's the point of a footwork sequence then? Is it only to show that you can do those things? Or is it to be this explosive moment? All of our favorite footwork sequences from the past, everyone would tell us, oh yeah, it wouldn't get any points today.
Yeah, but it got the crowd and added.
Yes, because it enhanced the emotional element. Same with those scratch spins. It enhances that moment for the audience. And when you don't care about the audience, basically,
I think that there needs to be a balance, right? Because if you were to watch Yuka Sato's footwork sequence from 1994 and watch one of the top 5 women at Europeans, right? I would know that Yuka's footwork was easier than these ladies who did do brackets and counters and, loops. And yet I would still be able to tell you Yuka is a better actual skater.
Yeah. And you would be more entertained, more.
And the footwork requirements aren't necessarily bringing that out. Yes, there's more the subjectivity actually doesn't change because the levels and we saw this week at, US Nationals with the women, that the subjectivity is still there, or the bias or the cheating, whatever right. And
quite frankly, what could be so exciting in a Yuka footwork sequence was the speed. And with what was asked of so many of these step sequences, the program comes to a screeching halt because they have to move so slow, and it's this kind of like labored moment.
Well, that's when you watch Gracie Gold and she's upset about her marks, so we'll talk about it. But when you know that even the footwork is becoming the rest of the program, or the smoke break, or whatever you want to call it, that's a problem in the overall enjoyment for a judge and for a viewer, that it takes you out of it. The great thing about programs is when they go from beginning to end. And I think that's what Marilyn and Charlie did so well, whether or not they were the best artists or dancers, they went all out for the entire program.
Yeah.
Virtually more.
Watching those guys back in the early 2000s, which I was, when they would get to that end of the rink and turn around, you knew it was coming. And here they're going to go, and to different degrees of difficulty, different degrees of success, but they turned around and they were about to give you something big for the crowd. Everyone was about to get excited. People have to be reminded, I feel, in the arenas now to applaud a footwork sequence.
Well, isn't it interesting that we can use any piece of music, but everyone is picking in this shirt, right? And it's not just because it's popular, it's also because it's possible to skate to, right? This is why we see these pieces of music as well.
Right. And again, I don't fault the skaters, and it must be very difficult as choreographers to navigate this. It's a thing that would have to be changed at the judging and systematic level that way. Because I think even when they try, they're so, love him, get frustrated by him, whatever, with Jeremy Abbott, even he was talking about in spins and stuff like that. And I believe he is outrageously musical and listened to music and responded to it. But he had to almost pull himself out of the music at times to be counting, revolutions or something in a spin and stop at a number, as opposed to when the music wanted him to. And to me, that whole approach just says there's a crack in the foundation of this.
Well, to me, there's nothing worse. This is me personally. A great spin that changes position is wonderful when it does, and when it does well. When you watch 60%, of skaters when you see them trying to do the position. How about when people try to do the layover camel and it doesn't look anything like, there's nothing worse. You know that they're doing it for the level, but it looks awful.
Right. Right.
Like, I wish they wouldn't do it and could live in a world where you could.
That it would be okay that they didn't. Yeah.
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 Maybe they got fewer points, but we actually had a better program.
Right.
So.
Well, because again, as I always approach in music, I think the technique only exists to serve the interpretation. So if those jumps, if those steps, if those spins aren't enhancing the interpretation and they're literally just there to be there, it misses the mark for me.
Oh my God, we sound like Statler and Waldorf, the gay version. People are gonna watch these kids are gonna be like, "Who are they?" Oh my God.
Up in the balcony, yeah. But they had some good singers up there.
In our sweaters, whatever. Yeah, but I want to talk to you about Loena and about her brother and Adam. This is the thing with inexperienced coaches when they don't have years of coaching lower levels and get thrown into the top level. And there's no right way of gaining experience. But have you noticed that their vibe has changed? He was the nicest skater as a competitor. But have you noticed that they seem more stressed out than Mark and Peter when they are at the boards?
And I'm sorry, these are performers and I know they are athletes also, but it's that whole energy thing. And I've always wondered, like, when the coach is putting you on, when the coach needs to help calm you, when the coach needs to focus you, is that happening? If they're the nervous ones, Frank Carroll could have been absolutely nervous inside and freaking out during all of those skaters, but he remained a rock to keep them steady as he put them on the ice. And I don't know that that's happening here. And I don't know if that can happen. I've always wondered when it's such personal connections.
I don't think the personal connection is helping the stress level of either.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Because you care so much. Do you know what I mean? I'm sure it's because he wants her to do so well.
And they know she's capable, right?
Very. Yeah.
But to me, that's where this championship is lost. There's been too much care and changing, but also the emotional investment. When the German boy was in the kiss and cry and they were pissed at him for whatever reason, our friend was at the event, they were sitting in the kiss and cry, screaming at him while the next skater was on the ice. And that's really when something's, when this is bringing out, listen, we all have sides to our personality, not bringing out your best moments, like this is.
And quite frankly, even after a disappointing skate, is that the time to really have at it?
I think they are stressed in general of the first time, and this would not have happened if Russia were here, but they're now in this created situation, which we don't know if it's going to last or not. And I'm sure for Loena, she has to feel like the start of the season, when we first saw her, there was so much promise, right? And there was so much potential. Everyone was behind her. She gained so much support, but it's like really falling apart, competition to competition now.
Yeah.
And this also, I don't think that this solves jump technique issues for everyone when you're not built like a number 2 pencil, I don't think it always is the answer. And I think the idea of backloading your flip and Lutz is sometimes better on paper when you're trying to play the points game, and not good when you bring the human element into it, right? Remember when I posted a triple that she did on Instagram, and Jeremy Allen, Brady's old coach, was like, cheated, right? Well, so was Brady's, but anyway, maybe not back when he was coaching her as much, but but then she's trying to do the jumps in the second half, and I don't think that is maybe the right approach.
Because I would also think if you were like her, off to a tight, rocky start a little bit, that's looming over you the entire program, that you still have to do that. And then you get uncharacteristic mistakes on the simpler jumps, because I think it's very possible that the athlete's mind is already jumping ahead to what they still have to do, and they're worried about it.
It's true in your performance. Like, I think about the way my program is structured this year. I'm doing hard jumps in the second half, but not my hardest. There is a mental, like, sense of achievement that builds confidence when you go to the other elements. You know what your hard elements are as
Right.
a skater.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you know what's hard for you.
Or what's going to kick up some sort of thought about like, oof, gotta do that one. Yeah.
So this year, like, the axles are hard. And then in my footwork, I know that the key moment is the Choctaw to the twizzle, open, change balance point, back twizzle. That is the moment where I'm like, oh, when I get through that, I am like, all right, we are good. Okay, like, this is the moment, right? So I think for Loena, like, it's for triple, and then you see that the flip and the Lutz in the second half are a huge stress point.
And how many points have our favorite programs been that point when they know the tough stuff is behind them and they just let loose and get the crowd behind them? But when there's so much so late, we kind of never get that release moment for anyone. Yeah.
And for her, how many points do you lose when you go for them, don't get the rotation, fall on the left side of your body 2 in a row? Right? This is...
Yeah, they weren't just whoops. These were awkward, really momentum stopping falls. But
that's what happens when you're doing this and using your, and this technique starts to go like that. I mean, she has not the best jump technique, but not the worst. But this is something where you're like, okay, when it's falling apart. And she is someone, this is her moment to really be successful.
Right.
And I'm sure that this is now creating a huge amount of stress going into the World Championships.
Well, that's what I was wondering about. Does this, or does it almost help take away maybe some of the expectations they had, and now she feels like she comes back in as an underdog again?
Well, it could, and I think that's, who knows what kind of psychologist and sports psychologist she's working with right off the ice. But you think about Cowrie and Loena, these are two skaters, especially Loena. Cowrie was sometimes eking in there as a little bit more of a challenger up until that moment. I think Loena, the tide really turned around Europeans a little bit on the Grand Prix last year. The impetus for them to be like the outside shot at a bronze, but now they're elevated to this shot to win every time and not just lucky. And these are people who developed a self-belief that they were never going to win. That's not just, I don't know if it can happen. It's that, no, it actually can't happen, right? And what does that do to your self-belief? Whether they're taking trimetazidine or not, right? And you believe, well, I can never do the quads. I'm just not going to do, and you live in that world day in, day out. I think when all of a sudden that's all changed, it completely affects things. It's interesting how Alexa and Brandon have handled it so far pretty well.
Much older. They're much more experienced also. Yeah. And
I think in the women's field, there was really this ceiling that was just never going to be broken. And Cowrie has struggled as well this season, not just Loena. Cowrie at the university games, yes, she was jet lagged, but we have seen her. It reminds me of Michelle Kwan 96-97 season, where it feels like the wheels are about to fall off the bus, and then they do, right? Like, for both skaters, they've had that gripping feeling. And then moments where they've been fabulous. So,
in different ways. I mean, I think some of the Cowrie stuff was happening because she's also trying to grow and push herself at the same time.
And they use excuses about the university and they're going to school and all this stuff. And you're like, this is about.
But what's interesting is because almost Cowrie was trying new things, it's going to take a second for her to adjust. But Loena wasn't necessarily trying much new stuff. She just kind of attempted to do more of the same, but now is struggling to do so. And again, I wonder.
She enhanced it. Like, I don't think she did something wildly different like Cowrie, but I do think her short is even more attention grabbing than what we've seen from her in the past. It kind of built on her free from previous season. And then the long, they're trying to, I think that's their vision of what a world champion lady skates like. But
and then again, talking about how Tracy and Brian have been helping Rika with her comeback, and with their experience, they know, let's not go for broke. Let's just slowly build. If Loena at this point, like you're saying, doesn't backload so much and goes for clean instead of the most points to try to win, she may still end up in a higher place.
One of my favorite moments of the season is when Rika did the free skate to Titanic and I think did the loop for the first time. I forget if she did the flip. I thought
she did the flip, yeah.
When she did the flip and she went green across the board, and it was the most satisfying program. I would have given her all the points. Like,
and then when they want to help you with PCS, which I believe they do with Loena, I think they want her to succeed. The judges, I think if you give them that green, even though maybe it's more front loaded, that PCS is going to boost up even more so, and then you're going to be right there.
Well, she has that it factor, right? She just, and the performance quality, imagine her under different rules. She really has that something special, the intangible quality. And it's, yeah, I'm rooting for her to come through this. And I think she's a great personality to be on the podium again. And I think it's important for the sport, whether Russia comes back or not, to see personalities like how, in an ideal world, the top group at the Worlds doing good performances, like top 4, would be some combination of Cowrie, Loena, Mai, and Isabeau. Just to really get
I'll put Yelim in the final group. Just
of course. Well, in the final, but I'm talking about that they have more
yeah
performance face.
Understood.
And
yeah,
that's.
I agree. I agree with you 100%. And Loena is very capable. I think
Yelim is lovely, but she doesn't break.
Not the same. I understand. Yeah. Yeah.
And it seems a little bit reductive of what Yuna did, right? Yeah. Like they follow the Yuna mold almost of her, like they take like, let's take the Les Mis costume and this music edit, and like that's the Korean women's aesthetic, but there's not the individuality yet that they're.
Yeah.
And,
yeah.
Yeah.
So. And this group you're describing are very individuals. Like they're very individualistic. So I hope she can get her ducks in a row for Worlds, obviously.
I mean, it has to be hugely disappointing, but I think it's also a huge learning moment. And though it's painful right now, it could be what catapults her forward.
Right.
So, and you know what? Maybe she and her brother should go visit Tracy and Brian, who aren't that busy this season, and get some of their expertise to get a medal. And then he'll learn as a coach, she'll learn as an athlete, everybody, whoosh, boom.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. You know, Michelle wasn't Frank's first student.
Exactly.
You know, and Frank, even when you were doing the interviews with him and all these sorts of things, talks about, I made this mistake and I learned this. And then I
sure didn't win the Olympics the first time as a coach. That's
yeah, in fact, first few times.
So
that makes sense. You know, there's a real art to how to do that. And sometimes it's only through that experience.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm rooting for her. This was a tough watch. Yeah.
Yeah. I think Kimi Rapond, lovely. I would like to see again. He's so young, skates young, so much talent. Would like to see the style stretch. That's someone who needs to spend time with Carolina Kostner, like in person, drawing some hearts on the ice and learning how to use her limbs to maximum effect on the ice. Yeah.
And it's always that moment to see like a thrilling sort of surprise medalist there. I mean, what a moment for Switzerland this weekend at Euros.
Well, my good friend Lisa Kritzer said that what she loved about both Swiss skaters was that they were reliable, like Swiss watches. She was like, it was green across the board. It was that Swiss reliability that we are looking for. So,
yeah, great outing, and it's just nice to see again that joy.
They didn't give me as much in the spins as I would have wanted. They gave us some jumps, but
yeah. Well, again, Switzerland was so famous for the spins before they had to do all this cockamamie stuff.
Well, I want the spins.
Yeah.
You're Swiss. Why aren't you spinning?
Yeah. Okay. It was a nice moment, and we were ready for a nice moment at that.
You know who was underrated? Natalie Krieg. Okay, everyone is going to talk about Lucinda Rue and her damn spins, but like Natalie, you know what she had when she did her layback she looked like she was crocheting a basket. I really miss the
That's
lady.
right. The thing. Yes. Always.
How do ladies do that? And what are they doing? I don't understand.
Yeah. Or it's almost like a mambo thing sometimes up here. It looks like they're doing.
It always would look great. I don't know. It was fascinating.
Amazing.
Loved her. Okay. People are like, who? What? You old queens. Yeah.
She made the broadcast for 94 when they didn't have to show her. We couldn't see Tanya Savchenko half the time, but we were always watching Natalie.
She's a true queen. Okay.
Yeah.
True. Yeah. I have to say, I freaking loved watching the men's event here. This was the best. Okay. And someone has said that like peak skating, the last time it was really great in America is when we had Ashley and Gracie, but we have that now. And it's developing in 2 countries in Europe, and it has nothing to do with Russia. And because the Russian men have been hot messes for, 20 years, I think this will continue. With
Italy and France this way?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The French guys each want to win. Okay. Now, I was checking in with Sylvia, doing my due diligence the last couple of weeks. And she's an emotional girl.
With I think one of the most emotional skaters on the
Remember, so because I was always like, wait a second, you have Galina, Nina Petrenko, and Sylvia together. Where are the cameras? Okay.
Yeah. Like a bunch of fire extinguishers. Yeah. Okay.
Holy moly. Okay. I don't even know how that happened. Okay. But remember last year, Galina was like, oh, Kevin, he has Holeric personality like Misha Shmerkin. He will only skate well once a year. That tells me. But they were just talking about like that. But every time he skates, I'm like, oh, it's our favorite Holeric personality. He is giving us the entertainment factor. Now, he had the ankle injury. And then remember, he skated really well, but he wasn't putting in the quad.
Right.
So they had Sylvia's like, no, we're going to do the quad. We're going to do the quad here. He's been adding it to the short program. He has to do it cleanly. But remember, the average skater needs about 3 weeks before the event that they're skating well. You skate roughly about as well as you did 2 weeks before the event, typically. And he was putting the quad in, and he was doing the good shorts. But you see, he did the most gorgeous quad of his life in the short program. Pops the axle.
Right.
Which they call, that could be an upper limit problem or what. I think Kevin could join me at EMDR and we can redefine our self-beliefs together. And I think he can become less reactive. Yes. And I think that he has a lot of potential, and we love his fieriness. That's what makes him such a great performer. But if they could tone it down just a little bit, I think he'll be.
Yeah, it's clear. Again, it's the emotional skaters that are always the most riveting. And he is certainly both of those things. So these programs are so amazing, but the emotions that are just sort of wild after the program and in the kiss and cry. And after the kiss and cry, they were showing him just like having a complete breakdown after the event.
If the ISU wants to get people in skating, we need to commission a documentary series like streamed that follows 2 skaters, Kevin and French Adam, right?
Yeah, I'm in.
With Sylvia and Benoit and all of that typing with the spaces in between and all that bullshit. Okay. These skaters clearly want to beat each other. Love that.
Yeah.
As they should. I think there is so much personality. You could have whatever happened where like Sylvia and Kevin are like not at the rink they were at in Florida and they're finding a home. Maybe you could start with the Morgan Cipra situation and Kevin's like emotional reaction. Maybe I think you could follow the narrative arc is like endless. Okay. These would get people into skating. Kevin bawling on the broadcast, while horrible for him,
showed that. I was surprised that was made.
Did you never watch Wide World of Sports when they were like the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat?
And it was always that skier crashing into the sides. Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry. Of course, we've got Trusova yelling and Kevin crying.
Yeah.
I'm riveted. Okay. Yeah. I'm intrigued what's happening with both of them. All right. Okay. I want to know.
Yeah.
And what does French Adam think about anything?
Because what's been interesting about French Adam is, we'll just call him Fradam. Oh no, I like that part because he moves so beautifully in it. If that would be something you could give that choreography to someone else and I'd be like, oh, knock it off. But the way he moves his body, just
don't encourage Benoit.
Amazing. But it's about Adam's ability to move because he immediately gives you permission to know he has dance quality in the first 10 seconds. Whether or not you like those specific dance moves is a different story, but the way he is moving his body is sensational and already has given you the permission to find him artistic.
You know what I was relieved? Is that we have mutual friends who sometimes like skaters they don't love and love them vehemently, right?
Okay.
All in.
Okay.
And when Brady Tennell did the Greta voiceover, I was like, they are gonna hate that. And I was like, yes. Okay, like I knew we were gonna be on the same page.
Right. Yes, that was a choice. That was a choice.
That was a choice, no matter what end of the spectrum you are on. That was just universally tasteless.
Yeah, yeah, it was weird. It was weird for sure. But I you know, they talk about the connection between the two programs for Adam. I mainly see it in that opening choreography, but he has slowly climbed. And even though he did not win the free here, this was still solid. This was still solid for a guy who is also really, for the first time, experiencing this major pressure and expectation. And he delivered.
When he is on, do you notice that both Kevin and French Adam, we were used to French skaters with some like haphazard jump technique, less than standard. Wait, what would say? The French skaters have always been left in the center, right? Like they're always a little strange in both the technique and the presentation, which Jonathan believes that the technique only serves to enhance the presentation. And in the French world, it certainly is in their left of centerness.
Okay.
In both technique, like they have decent skating basics for French skaters. This is we're talking in the singles discipline, not in the Papa, because this is a own area.
More standard, recognizable jump technique.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like how about like the rhythm of like Philippe Candeloro picking in for a triple Lutz? Like that was some interesting, like.
Even Surya, always confusing timing. Florent, Amodio, that was another one. You know, I mean, it was a consistent sort of like, what is happening here? Yeah. It was amazing.
It's so interesting because like you go to watch French skating, you think of Paris, so beautiful, and then you're like you watch French single skating, and you're like, what
country
that?
Is this? Yeah. But Adam did a really good job.
Yeah,
I think he really set himself up well going into Worlds.
I think he's got a real shot at a medal at Worlds.
I do too. And
he's enough of a blend of the skating skills and the performance with enough difficult jumps and consistency overall to surpass men who are attempting more difficult jumps but will likely make errors.
Yeah. And it was fascinating that Matteo Rizzo, of course, winning the long here. And
liking him more and more this season.
I'm such a sucker for a quad loop, and that quad loop was beautiful in the free skate. Troubles with the quad toe, less engaging sometimes because I think that focus was overriding a lot of the artistry. Also just a pop in here to say Adam Rippon, not a bad commentator.
So American Adam, good. Are we surprised?
Well, my fear was that he was going to try to be like outlandish, crazy personality, which is, I think, the problem I have with Johnny and Sarah. Is they're trying to get like a sassy zinger in that's about them being funny instead of about enhancing.
I believe Adam will one day either like host the Olympics, like in the Bob Costas role, or push Johnny out. I don't know what is happening, but it just seems
empathetic. It was empathetic commentating, but it was also full of technical information, and he was really concise and able to verbalize.
I'm impressed by his career, like not knowing every detail they've done, and some things he does seem are But overall, the arc of his career that he has survived for as long as he has past the Olympics and grown it is very impressive, I have to say.
It's interesting, even as a skater, I preferred him as a serious skater as opposed to this like showy razzle dazzle club music skater. And I'm finding the same in his public persona. When his public persona was trying to be outrageous, I was totally dismissive of it. But here, as he was a bit more serious, I think that's actually his soul. I think same with Johnny, actually, but he's been forced into this outlandish character. I think.
Well, most funny people are very serious.
Yeah.
Like, not funny all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think of myself as a pretty serious person, right?
Oh, wow.
Like, yeah.
Yeah. Agreed.
But I can also have the other side to myself that's like
a side as opposed to a constant. Yeah.
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 So, yeah, it's.
But he did a great job. He did a great job commentating here.
Yeah. So, like, I imagine Joan Rivers also a serious person. Obviously.
Yeah, for real though. For real.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was interesting, everyone, because we were hearing also about some of the European commentary and Adam's commentary. Everyone mentioned Daniel's questionable decision. This seemed to be the hot topic. I'm sure he is receiving a lot of hate, which is, I mean, this is a young skater. He made a very questionable move. I don't. Yeah.
I have empathy for the kind of backlash that has to be shocking, because up until this point, and this is within skating, yes, everyone knew the controversial things about Team Tutberidze, but they were still being celebrated.
By the ISU Coach of the Year.
Not just by everyone. Anything they did would go viral, whether you liked them or not, whether people badmouth them or not. Overall, everyone was still giving them positive attention. Nowadays, they still generate a substantial amount of attention, but it's largely negative.
Yeah. And not because of the war.
No.
But because of the actual camp itself. Yeah. And I think that was also mixed messaging. You know, some people were like,
how many times people said that we were lying, and the same people on Reddit, my friend's like, oh no, they actually have threads that said that you guys are right, you were right. And we're like, well, we weren't guessing, you know, like it was like, but yeah. And I think someone like that is young and doesn't have the big perspective, and he said it, I went there because I want to win. Which is so funny, because he said all the right things before, like, oh, I was homesick, that's why I'm leaving Boston. No, he moved there to want to win. And then he didn't think he was winning. So, this is someone who wants to win. I think you see that in his skating. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of aesthetics to it.
Right. Especially when you're having issues with the difficult quads who used to be able to deliver a little bit more consistently. Yeah. It was always a gamble. But these kinds of pops, normally we would see him like really go for the rotation and come down. But this sort of pop situation is new.
Notice that Terry did not risk her reputation and her face being seen next to Morris and Daniel.
Or even Danny G or Sergey, who were not in the kiss and cry for either. And some people were saying—
I don't know why that is, because the people would say, well, they're not officially listed as coaches, but then there are no official rules about this. You're also reading. I don't.
Maurici obviously having a dreadful outing here.
I thought Daniels was also dreadful.
Yeah. Yeah.
His technique is not aesthetic. And when he opens up and is looking around, and I don't know.
And then you've got Nicola Memela around. I mean, that was a very solid short program from him.
Yes. So
he's ready to sneak in if this whole move for Daniel backfires.
Wait. Nicola Memela wasn't here.
Then who am I thinking of? Oh, Frangipani. Sorry, I'm thinking of.
I was like,
sorry.
Memela's on the brain because
yes, he's always on the brain. He's wonderful.
In this 4-skater race that's going on in Italy that I think is going to be very exciting. That's why we could also have a show that when we're not going between the French skaters, the ISU could have a documentary, like a Netflix series following these 4 Italians with Matteo, Daniel, Frangipani, and Nicola Memela. I'm very fascinated between that and who gets the spots and how they
felt like Frangipani was actually a little underscored in the short. I thought it was a particularly lovely moment.
In the free, but we saw him earlier in the free do a nice job. It's funny when Italian skaters are so on the nose Italian, like both pairs were, and right, like
really playing home that national sentiment. Yeah,
they really do. It's funny that way in the skating that they always go that way at the end. Yeah, it's safe. You know what?
Totally.
It's a solid 7 to 7.5 in components. You're not going to go wrong, right? It's
and Lucas, the other Swiss skater here who medaled, really lovely, really tempered performance, like solid,
reliable, like a Swiss watch, as Lisa said. Like,
and again, you know, as a viewer, there was something a little bit more relaxing about viewing him, because you're like, okay, he's in his body, he's on his feet, like everything's going to be.
I think
fine.
you should call Sandra Bezic and add some color. She could find great music for him at least.
Because I think he's capable of doing it. Yeah, I think that would be
music. When I put on the David Foster Waterfront, inevitably someone's like, I just love that music. Now I had to be sold on it. I didn't like, I was like, it sounds a little old. It sounds great in an ice rink. I was like, it's not, you know, it doesn't sound like in this shirt. I don't know, right?
Right.
People love it when it comes on.
Yeah. But again, really, I mean, I think Dennis is skating to great music this season. Unfortunately, not the outing he was looking for.
Now, he kind of has the Jason Brown packaging thing going on. Is it helping him or not?
Teenage, yeah. Jason Brown.
I don't know if it's helping him or not at this point. To me, I find it distracting.
I do too.
Because it doesn't, last year it went with the costume. This year, it seems separate from the costume.
Yeah, it's so high up where that ponytail begins that it's really its own separate thing that your eye keeps following.
Yeah.
Instead of his blades or something. Yeah.
And it makes him, it almost like takes your eye out of the ice. Like he looks out of the ice because the energy seems here more. And I think he has good skating skills, not Patrick Chan level, right? Like it could still develop in that area. It's kind of interesting, like which way this is going to go, because he could have had an Adam Siao moment, right? Like he could have been that skater this season, and he's doing okay. And right, but it's which way is this going to go, right? And I think he has a lot of very nice qualities. I think his maximum individuality has not yet happened. I don't think a signature program has fully developed from him just yet.
Yeah, I agree.
But I think he's done very, very well the last couple of years. But I think he's capable of more artistically, for sure.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I hope he grabs it, right? And does it, and that they really package him well and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
So. Well, what did you think about the ice dance event?
Obsessed. My favorite discipline of this entire competition.
Okay, let me hear
it. It's now, listen, I know they've been around. This Finnish dance team, I loved. And the short program was fun. Of course, the crowd, which was already great, was extra enthusiastic for them. And I just love that sort of energy in the arena. When they did that rotational lift in the free dance, it was so fast and so interesting. This was just so well deserved.
Handsome Maurizio and the kiss and cry.
I know, right?
Put his glasses, right? Yeah.
And as we were talking about them before we started airing, we were discussing their previous placements, and they have medaled all 3 times in Finland. It was
every time.
The Grand Prix of Finland, and now the Europeans that happen in Finland.
Ultimate home crowd team.
Yeah, but they were so exciting. He had performance quality. She had great extension, like exciting and different, because this is a different camp than we're used to seeing. So it's just nice to see variations on the normal formula here. I found them outrageously entertaining. I absolutely loved them. Yeah.
They're just pleasant to watch, the free, in that like classic kind of way. It's very smooth, like when you're watching Kirkorpi, you know, it's like a chilled vibe.
A good time. They're enjoying themselves, and whether that's the newness or whatever, it's really nice to see.
Yeah,
it's really nice to see, I think.
And they've been steadily doing well throughout the season, and which is great. And
What did you make of the British scores? To me, I was sensing that they anticipated more here.
I love them so much.
Of course.
I was not surprised. I think that when Montreal has 22 countries and you get those scores, but eventually the Italians are better skaters. I believe that the British have better programs. But I think that this difference in the skating quality is what went out.
What I appreciated about Lila and Lewis in this time around, so the crowd was erupting. They had erupted for Allison Reed, you know, who ended up in fourth. And then the Finnish team came in and rode that and then got the crowd really going when they realized they were going to medal. And then Lila and Fear rode that energy even more with their free dance and got the crowd going. And then the Italians came out and the crowd kind of went down.
I zoned out watching the.
I know, but you can't deny how sharp that technique is. So they're going to get all those extra points. So to me, even though it was,
there's nothing sadder in ice dance is when a tall female skater gets with a male skater who's on the short end, and then she starts to hunch her shoulders, because it's like watching someone dim their own light.
Right. Take up less space. Yeah.
And of course they do it subconsciously, right? They do feel that. And you see it with Green and Parsons. And to me, it's why they will never fully break through. And you see it here, and it's like, but, and I find the ending to their free dance so uncomfortable. I don't know. It's a lot. It's a lot. The whole thing.
You mean?
Yeah, and the pack, I don't know, the program and I mean, it's not boring, but it's weird that I could zone out and be feeling alarmed at your free dance at the same time, Jonathan. That's a lot of emotional journey. And
even, I know it sounds trite, but even in the packaging that in the rhythm dance, here's J-Lo and, you know, coming out to do the British rhythm dance in the vibrant green, and then she's in the vibrant blue. And then for a team that has the criticism of being so technically sound, but perhaps a little less exciting to the crowd, for them to always just be dressed in these muted blacks also doesn't help them pop to me. And
for Lila and Lewis, I think that Lila needs to work on her leg extension. Listen, there are skaters that have been rumored to have their knees shaved down in the past, whatever it takes, okay? Like, oh yeah, Jonathan, that's a real thing. Skaters have done it.
That's horrifying.
Of course. Ugh. I'm not actually encouraging someone to do that. I'm like, but you know how Karen Humphrey would have the most gorgeous leg extension, but the knee was just a little knobby, so it never looked fully straight? That's quality.
Oh.
Her knee never looks extended.
Okay.
Listen, they could fly to a competition on a private jet and her leg still doesn't look extended. And when you ask me why they're behind the Italians, well,
yeah.
I'm just going to be, and I prefer Lila and Lewis. They're like my favorite team of the season. Love them, right? I did think that they held back a little bit in the free here. They were more focused and less free than we've seen them at other times. They have made a lot of changes, and I think it was quite good. They switched the move in the rhythm dance. I don't remember if I've said it here on TSL Live, but I would cringe every time that he would do this amazing twizzle and then she would follow and do the same thing, and it wouldn't look good. Yeah. And to me, that was like a glaring omission.
Why invite the comparison? Yeah.
So they have removed that, and I think it's a better overall structure. But I think over the summer, I mean, they need to just work on the basic skating because they don't have as much speed as other top teams at the Grand Prix final. And I think that is the area where they can really, they have the presentation. As long as they're
making huge moves.
Yes.
Yeah, I think they were looking to make 2 giant steps forward, but this season still has been 1 giant step forward in their placement.
Yes. Yeah. But I think that the next thing they can do is to really work on the technical aspect of what it's going to take and to get the basic speed and skating quality to really improve at before they, I think that they should work on basics for like 6 weeks before they start putting the program together. Because oftentimes people that need to work on their basic skating put the program together before they are like, oh, we'll put the program together, then we'll work on basics. You never get around to doing the basics. And you're putting the program together
and learning it with that limitation.
Learning it from your skill set of a year prior and not where you're looking to develop. So
and then the muscle memory is going to be almost impossible to change once that's in.
So then you never actually make the improvement, right? You're still stuck in what you did before.
Yeah.
So I just had this discussion with a friend who's like, yeah, Rohin's going to do the program. And I'm like, yeah, well, you're going to work on your stroking, right? Yeah. And he's going to put the program together right after season. And I was like,
yeah, missing the point. Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
You know,
I find it fascinating also that Adria Diaz was sitting in the kiss and cry with them. And of course, on coaching staff right now. It's always a fascinating dynamic to me when one of your former colleagues is now in the position of your coach. I'm always curious how they handle those dynamics.
I think, listen, he was a lot older. So that's.
Yeah. But the age sort of creates that gap.
Is Olivia Smart going to go back? She is like the queen of dancing on ice. Is she going to go back?
Get that publicity, make that money, take your time.
And I want her back. I think it's important for the sport that she comes back, but what's easier in her life?
Yeah. Right.
Although doing all those rhythm dances, ugh, come on.
All the restrictions, all the limitations on the creativity. Yeah.
How much do you love it? And then I was thinking, well, what's going to happen to Hawaii? I mean, let's say they get to Worlds or not. Are they going to continue after this season? That was Olivia's best friend in that training environment. So
right.
What happens then? How much do things really change? Do you want to go back to Montreal and hang out with like all the toddlers? Right? I mean,
right. I have a lot to say about the judging of the Nationals dance event. We're going to get into it tomorrow.
I think that US Ice Dance has really fallen, and it has been for some time, but we have pretended
made
otherwise.
A big mistake, I think, this time.
But the funny thing about
that's tomorrow.
Yeah.
But speaking of rough pairs events.
Actually, I thought this pair event, the Italian pair, I think Rebecca and Filippo have a wonderful quality. They have huge throws, they have speed, they have more complex transitions. And like most, pair teams that we like, they have a good degree of inconsistency, which keeps them behind Sarah. We're going to start with the Italian pairs because, there was a confusion about some of those dark-haired pair girls from the Olympics, and we want to make sure that we didn't.
It was me. My apologies. It was so early when we watched pairs at the Olympics.
Early, there was a lot going on.
There was.
We never got a resolution. Oh my God! But speaking of doping, the fact that Caroline said something, I mean, the Russians were irate, about the eyelash. But you know what always makes me laugh about the Russians? If there's one thing that will piss off a Russian, it's that Simone Biles beats them. And it's not just that they're losing at something, it's that Russia is losing to a black girl, right? And that they didn't think of taking Adderall, which...
which again is hardly trimetazidine. It's hardly that. It's hardly that, yeah.
It is not, although it does provide focus, and it can be an appetite suppressant, which is also very dangerous as someone who took Adderall and had to stop for certain reasons. So,
okay, got it.
Got it. The appetite suppressant thing is very real. So, it's
Adderall. No, I'm not.
No, it's dangerous.
Dangerous. Okay. Got it. Yeah.
And I think anyone who's watched the show would understand that, yes, I have a degree of ADD, but dangerous. So, especially when you're a perfectionist and everything. Yes, it's just.
One would imagine. Yeah, a perfect story. Okay.
So, anyway, my college years, memoir coming at 8. Anyway, that's like.
I buy it. Okay. But in general, what has been interesting about this is the rebuilding of some really strong federation presences. So for Italy in this event, to have a dance champion, a pairs champion, a pairs silver, a men's silver. Like, this is great for what's happening in Italy and also for what's happening in France.
Funny, because when Deanna Stellato was switching, I was always like, Deanna, you should represent Italy. You're Italian, but they have so many Italian girls. Although I'd love to see.
They really do.
I'd love to see all those gorgeous Italian girls fighting together, right there. Sylvia, Valentina, Stefania, Diana, Rebecca.
Italian set of music. Yeah, we got some more Barbara of Seville, which I'm always happy to hear.
Well, I like Deanna's cultural appropriation free skate much better than I would like her skating a Fellini program, right? Okay. And I have to say that I have changed on something. Earlier in the season, I think I shaded the Broadway Impossible Dream it all. And I don't know, I've been doing all of these inner child meditations, and I really have, like, I meditate like 40 minutes a day now.
That's great.
My personal journey.
Okay.
I also decided not to compete this year at nationals. So, again, memoir coming at 8. We'll discuss why at another date. But I don't know. I was like, Jason Brown, The Impossible Dream. I started listening to it. We need Jason to go clean today. Perfection.
I mean, spoiler alert. I loved the short program.
Yeah.
Loved it.
Listen, we just need him to do that knee slide into the flip at the end and just nail it. Okay. Yeah. Oh my God. I put up a short. There's been a fabulous adult skater who's been sending me practice videos throughout the week, and people keep asking me if I'm there. And I'm like, no, it's great. I'm sitting on my ass at home and just pretending.
And again, this has been an unusual weekend for skating in many ways and giving mixed feelings. And so then to see someone like that do something, and I think this is how you captioned it, which was so perfect, was falling in love with skating again. Or showing whatever that it was perfect because you see the joy and the beauty and all.
So this nationals has been the USFS rock bottom, in my opinion. We have when you're rock bottom. Okay.
Yeah. So for such a bright light to emerge, like
two things need to happen today. Ilya Malinin needs to land that quad axle, and Jason Brown needs to go clean, and we need to just.
And all will be right with the world. Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Yeah. But.
And then Jonathan will sing The Impossible Dream for us. Oh, yes. Okay.
Low for me, but I'll do it. I'll do it. I'll do it better.
Well, I had a friend that was like, I went to see the Whitney Houston movie with her. As you know, I love Whitney. Anyone who knows me knows this. Nippy.
Incredible instrument. One of the greatest voices of our generation.
My friend who's a big PSL viewer. And she realized that this is how she's now Jonathan's voice student. So she was at my friend's wedding. And this is like one of my great friends from high school. And my friend had a wedding during COVID. And I was like watching the ceremony because I could only have a few number of people. And like Teresa and I, like we were both abroad at the same time and visited each other and the whole deal. She was at Teresa's wedding and she was like, oh, so you're a big skating fan? And Teresa's like, yeah, no. And she's like, but you're mutual friends with Dave Leese. And she was like, yeah. Like,
and so, what do you talk about? Yeah.
So, and then she told me that she was doing Whitney Houston with you, and I was like, and I was like, what did his voice go? Yes, or oh, I wasn't sure.
Oh, I'm all about it. Because to me, the right technique can be applied to any genre. You know what I mean? So yeah, it was great.
All you have to do is watch Whitney Houston do the 1994 AMA's performance, where she does Porgy and Bess to Dreamgirls, to I Have Nothing, and just luxuriate for 10 minutes. Okay.
It's such a dreamy instrument. It's just magic, her singing. Yeah.
Oh, magic. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah. She's not being tripped up by technique. She's letting that emotion flow. To me, it is no different.
Excuse me. Sissy will tell you that she taught her how to sing. She taught her everything.
But it was so ingrained, you don't see her concentrating on it. She just then can rely on it and allow.
You're going to debate her technique with Sissy Houston?
Say what?
You're going to criticize her technique with Sissy Houston?
No, I'm going to say it was so well ingrained. She didn't have to consciously think of it every time. And so it was so organic and natural. It was so perfect. So perfect. Yeah.
Robin refers to Sissy as Big Cuda in her book, as Barracuda.
Okay. Whatever was taught in the right way. Yeah.
You haven't done anything. You need to listen to Robin Crawford.
Okay.
a song for you about when you have to listen to Robin read it. You need that baritone voice from Newark telling you about
how it is.
How it is.
Amazing. Okay.
She will make you fall in love with Audible. Okay. This is Although I have one friend who's an actress who's like, Robin's a slow talker. And I said, sure is. Okay. This is...
Can't you speed up the tempo?
No. You need Robin to enunciate. Robin like just learned how to enunciate, but Nippy taught her how to say the word often. She didn't say it correctly, and Whitney criticized her. But you need to call the greatest drug tour instead of the greatest love of all.
Amazing. Yikes. Got it. Meanwhile, the Italian pairs. Yeah.
Jonathan, I have told people to read this book for years. And now that the movie came out, I made Teresa Naples read it. Okay.
Having a resurgence. Okay. I love that. Okay.
And you're going to listen to it too. And you're going to be like, mm-hmm.
No, I will listen to it for sure. Okay.
It's all about Big Huda. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
You're going to learn why Whitney wound up with a man like Bobby. It's not going to be, did he ruin her? It would be like, why did she wind up with Bobby?
There it is. Yeah. Why did she not know to leave? I get that. I get that.
We've all been there. Mm-hmm.
Ain't that the truth?
Ain't that the truth, Ruth? Okay.
Okay. But for reals, these Italian pairs. Give me your thoughts.
Yes. Oh my God.
So you're more of a fan of Rebecca and Filippo.
We like Rebecca. We love Rebecca and adorable Filippo. Yes.
Yeah.
They have the nice Italian music. She has the nice earrings, dressed. I'm not into these men in the tan pant. What in the Charlie White is this? I like a black pant on a guy. All right.
Well, again, because to consider it also against the ice, it's just nicer to see more of the line with the
I don't want it to be like, to remind me of like a chair in grandma's basement, right? I don't want the material of the pants to remind me of that. I like a nice, proper pant
line to be able to see. Yeah. What's fascinating is now, of course, all of these like double axle sequences we see so many pairs doing. Yeah. Unfortunately, they missed theirs in the short, which is why they were so far behind. But
they should allow a third double axle. You know why? Wasn't it thrilling whenever you saw Scott Hamilton do the 3 double axles in a row?
So is it that you're not allowed to do 3? Is that why they do the double axle, single axle?
Yeah.
Ah, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, because remember didn't Una or someone used to do 3 double axles and then they had to do 2 when the rules changed?
Okay.
They've got to let 3. Listen, remember, a Russian choreographer does things 3 times, and though Scott Hamilton would sort of shade that, he did the double axle 3 times and the backflip 2 times. Okay. I know Scott Hamilton program. All right.
Yeah, in and out. Okay.
I wasn't just like, filing my nails all those years. I knew what was happening. Okay.
Amazing. Okay. I mean, I'm intrigued. Where do you see these Italian pairs fitting in at Worlds?
Right with Deanna Stellato going neck to neck. Right? I think.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think it's easy to see 2 of them in the top 6.
But they only get 1 pair.
I didn't realize that. Have they announced 2? This is a tough call for them to make.
They're going to send Sarah Conti.
Okay.
They should send Rebecca, but they will send the winners. So
okay.
We would be the winners if Rebecca and Filippo were going.
Yeah. And again, I mean, I think should easily, obviously, qualify 2 for next season. So, yeah.
Matteo and the new partner looked like a new team out here.
Yeah.
And the one thing is that the team that won does not have the most difficult in-betweens. They do all crossovers. The quality of their twist and their throws is...
And it's a throw Siao and a throw loop, as opposed to Rebecca and Filippo are doing the throw Lutz and the throw loop. You know what I mean? That kind of stuff.
Also, Jonathan, I have been peeing myself lately on Instagram. Do you follow Tara Kane?
No, I do not.
Jonathan, she's doing this like circus, yoga, acro, like she's putting herself in lifts. Like, she has to do the work. No, I just think of
I was gonna say.
every time I see Tara Kane doing this acro. I oh no, she's working out. She's getting some abs. There's Tara with all these big, strong guys. Like, okay.
I mean, maybe she sees an opportunity in the future to come back.
I think that they should bring back Ashley Kane, and I think that they need to tell Audrey Shin, girl, your triple are cheated. You have a great triple toe. Go to pairs. We'll put you with Danny O'Shea. We'll put his partner with Balaj, and we will have teams that don't look like they're going to die at the U.S. Nationals. Let's do it. Otherwise, I think Mitch is
a novel concept.
Mitch might pay Ashley Kane to come back the same way Alexa and Brandon got allegedly
assistance.
Listen, they came back this season because they wanted to show other American teams that it's possible to win. Wasn't that the
Is that the quote?
Listen,
I'm just, thank God they did.
Their Vanguard account is sure winning. Okay, like, yes.
Anyone's Vanguard account winning right now? I mean,
UTSAX is going up slightly compared to what it was. Yeah. But anyway,
financial joke. Okay.
Yeah, I'm the Pairs.
Yeah, Pairs is in an interesting way, but again, the Italians made a nice showing for themselves here, both teams. So.
And how about at the St. Petersburg Championship? Because we were going to discuss this. If you've been watching As the Blade Turns, Jonathan, I've been calling it.
I am up to date. Yes.
What is your take on the IOC and the Russia status? Because this is all about to come around March, April, is when we're going to get the Valyeva case, whatever's going on with WADA, RUSADA, the neutrality decision, right as Putin ramps up the war in Ukraine. This is on a collision course, all of this.
And the question that you bring up is not only is it possible to consider an athlete that is funded by their government and shows up at pro-war rallies? How does one prove they're neutral? What kind of thing do they need to know as the IOC to prove someone's neutrality? It's more than just competing without.
Thank God Tuktamisheva made that Telegram post after that Plushenko thing, where it seems that Yana and Plushenko, we weren't really covered. You know, people were uncomfortable talking about Russia. They had that rally before the ice show that seems like it was planned, but wasn't, but was planned. But Boykova and
Tuktamisheva did seem to be sideswiped by that.
Yes.
And I do believe that.
Yeah. Oh, I think Yana could manipulate you for her own game.
And then suddenly it's this here, everybody.
Yana who stole a baby from the hospital, allegedly? What? Like,
and again, this is the culture.
That gets glossed over, okay? There has never been a more perfect foil for a Terry, okay? Say what you will about a Terry Yurkievna Tutberidze. She did not steal a baby from the hospital, okay?
She did not. As far as we know, she did not.
As far as we know,
yeah,
Terry did not steal a baby.
But again, the culture of skating in general.
What happened to Plushenko's first child? How come we never see him? Only Dorf, right?
Oh, I didn't even know there was a second
Exactly,
child.
Not Father of the Year. Okay, this is
interesting. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's a culture where the skaters are so submissive and they do what they are told. And so if someone says, put on these t-shirts for the final number, I think they're all accustomed to saying, okay, we put on these t-shirts for the final number. But
is Yana a loving stepmother?
You know, I hope for the children's sake that she is. That's my final answer on that one. But with this neutrality thing, is it that they're asking the athletes to go but be countryless in their representation, or are they looking for a statement of neutrality?
Maybe they'll have to sign something, right? And the Russians are, of course, saying, we won't let them, we won't let them, we won't let them. How many times?
I don't think they will let them.
Oh, please. How many times where they were like, no Russia, no games? And then we saw all the same people, Yagudin, would be yelling, no Russia, no games, anytime that they weren't going to allow Russia to have its flag at the Olympics. We shouldn't go. And then the athletes were going to go, and then they're like, and we'll show everyone we're the best. Please. They will sign that document.
But if the document has to somehow...
I mean, this is a this is an imaginary document. This is not, right? I think the athletes that wouldn't be allowed are any athlete that wore the Z at the rally. And at the same time, the Avarina twins that feel they were robbed in rhythmic gymnastics because they were out. I mean, this is like more political than I stance, rhythmic gymnastics, right? But they lost the gold medal, whether they believe it was justly or not. I don't know how it happened. If Arena Wiener is like rumored to buy all the panels, like what did she not do, right? Listen, fascinating. Anyway, her husband, now maybe ex-husband, maybe they're getting divorced to hide the assets. Who knows? That's the one that has all the yachts that's being taken away. He used to run Gazprom. Remember the Atari mask with the G?
Right.
Alashir Usmanov, right? All that money goes down to the Avarina twins that were with Putin next to Tarasov Morozov, Sinitsina Katsalapov, all wearing the Z. With Putin in the photo, I don't know how you would call any of them neutral.
Yeah. Although it's very possible those people wouldn't be gunning to go to the next games anyway.
Well, that's for 2024.
Right.
So if they're allowed back, they would have to be neutral.
Yeah.
But they're saying that the individual federations would have to make that call. Well, Irina Wiener is very high up in the International Gymnastics Federation. Now, they did ban a Russian male gymnast for wearing the Z at a competition. How about when you wear a Z when you're next to Putin? Are they going to consider the stars of rhythmic gymnastics neutral or not neutral?
Well, and there was an interesting thing that happened at the Metropolitan Opera, because Anna Netrebko, one of opera's big stars, is Russian and very close with Putin, and all these sorts of problematic connections that way. So in order for her to come and sing the title role right after the war was announced, they were requiring her to denounce the war in order to continue the contract. So when it came down to that, she refused to denounce Putin and the thing. I mean, it's a very complicated ask. Mm-hmm. And so if they are required to denounce a war or do something like that, I think it becomes very difficult in how they're going to move forward, because it becomes very emotional. And it's does being an athlete that where we know they are Russian, and then to win a gold medal, but to have denounced the government from your home country, that gets very complicated. I don't know.
How about it's such horseshit, because how about our very good friend Gubanova, who has never been to Georgia, as you were telling me they said in the broadcast?
Yes, they were like, it has not been to Georgia, lives in Moscow, born in Moscow, trains, and so that's a very unusual situation.
If you want to represent Azerbaijan, you have to go to Baku to pick up the passport. I do know that. Okay, you have to fly there at least once.
Yeah.
Now, they do have a de facto Azeri nationals. It's going to be a competition in Germany, but you do have to fly there to get the passport. I mean, this is ridiculous. This whole
semantics, yeah.
When we see skaters represent these other countries, and I'm sorry, I understand, we debated with Isadora about it, but it feels like a side door to me. It feels the same thing that feels like Lori Laughlin's daughter getting into USC. It feels like the athletic equivalent of it to me.
Yeah, okay. I think that's fair.
It's within the rules. So don't hate the player, hate the game, right? Like it's, right. But that's how I feel about it, right? Like, come on.
I agree.
Although Oksana Shusevitna had Germany saved her son's life. Oh my God, that was the greatest story ever. She can compete for Germany, right? Like but it's,
or Miss
that was real.
I can never remember if it's Allison or Kathy. It's Allison Reed, who's ice dancing right now for Lithuania.
Yes, Allison Reed, who's had.
But now that situation different. Lithuanian partner, and she is matched so well, and they're doing great together. So then, to me, it stands to reason that she's looking to represent a different country with that partner.
And how about when Aliona from Ukraine and Bruno from France represented Germany the last Olympics?
Although, because she had been sort of like grandfathered into the German system.
Of course.
Yeah, but yeah.
She was so German. Listen. Yeah. Okay.
It was interesting, even at the time when they were coming out with those Jutta Miller documentaries, she was like, oh, we've got a really good German girl now in pairs. And I said, well, kind of, yeah. But what you had was a great team in pairs, and they just had to represent somewhere. So I'm somewhere in between, because I've never, again, even in some of the commentating at Europeans, they put Adam with like some generic type who was asking all the layman questions and stuff. And he would say things like, and now the Frenchman on the ice, and now the Italian. And I was like, yeah, but it's Matteo and it's Adam. These are individuals, and I'm drawn to their individuality, not the flag. But
I'm drawn to your individuality, Jonathan. What country would you like to represent?
Yours. So I
think I'd like to represent Poland, I think, or should I represent Germany? I have lineage to both.
Oh,
I'm Alsatian. I could also represent France. Would I be, which federation do you think?
No, you're working on your jump technique. So don't do France. So do.
I mean, I am a little bit of a Katarina, right? Like
go Poland. You go Poland. I decided.
Me and Kurakova, right? We're gonna
a nice duo. Yeah. It'll be wonderful. You can do
what country are you gonna represent?
Oh, I mean, I'm afraid I have to be Johnny America.
Oh, okay.
Right. I mean,
you're from the Midwest, you know.
Yeah, I mean, you can try to fight it, but it catches up.
You're an Alexis Ameka, right?
Just gal at heart. Yeah. Listen to my ad bubble. Okay.
What federation would you like to represent as your side door? Please put it in the comments below. What are your options? Okay.
Right. And we know that many options can become available to you should you choose to start looking. I tried to get an EU passport at one point because there's enough Italian heritage close enough, but then I bailed. It was so complicated. So.
I mean, should Quebec be its own country? Could Marie-France have a 23rd country? I mean, come on.
You know what I always associate with that big vote about Quebec's independence was like Kurt Browning was skating at like a world figure skating championship final or something, like a pro world one. And I remember the commentators saying, like, I think Kurt Browning is skating beautifully tonight in honor of a unified Canada. It's like, I don't know if that's what he was thinking of, but okay. All my historical events, they coincide with what was happening in skating at the time. Yeah.
I'm here for unified Canada, and I will say Montreal is its own world, right? The French Canadians are surely their own breed. Yes.
Unique breed. Yes, exactly. What was your moment of the week?
Oh, the whole Kevin and Sylvia show. Yes, Jonathan. Yeah, listen.
It was like a telenovela. Yeah.
Her in the kiss and cry, rolling her eyes, him rolling his eye, him crying, her screaming at him to push at the board. Yes, that is theater. Okay.
I'm going with the Finnish dance team because I like.
Oh, you. So classy.
Woo!
Hold it edge and look sexy, everyone. Bye now.